when I married Daniel. I truly believed I'd found the perfect man. He was gentle, caring, hardworking, the kind of husband every woman dreams of. We bought a small house in a quiet suburb and started planning a life together. Those first years were beautiful, full of laughter, trips, and whispered I love yous at dawn. I used to look at him and think, this is what happiness looks like. But everything started to change when my little brother, Alex, moved into our town. He needed a fresh start after a bad breakup, and Daniel, always generous, offered to help him settle. They got along instantly, talking, laughing, sharing jokes I wasn't part of. At first, I thought it was sweet, Daniel being the big brother Alex never had. But soon, things began to feel off. Their closeness became something else. The late-night messages, the whispered calls, the excuses that didn't add up. Something in my gut kept warning me, but my heart refused to listen. Because admitting what I was starting to suspect would have destroyed everything I believed in. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. Daniel wasn't there. His phone was on the table, screen still lit with a new message. Thanks for today. I love you. My chest tightened. I opened the chat and froze when I saw the name. Alex, my little brother. I scrolled, my hands shaking. The words, the photos, the hearts. Everything confirmed the unthinkable. My husband was having an affair with my brother. I dropped the phone and ran to the bathroom, barely making it before I threw up. The world spun, and all I could hear was the echo of my own heartbeat. How do you even process something like that? How do you face your family when your own blood is part of the betrayal? I almost called Mom that night, but something inside me stopped me. What if she already knew? The following days, I watched them closely. Every glance, every gesture, every touch that lasted too long. Then I found out Daniel had opened a store for Alex with our money. That's when I knew I needed proof. So I followed them. And what I saw that night broke me forever. It was a Friday night. Daniel said he had dinner with a client. Something in me didn't believe him. So I waited, then followed his car from a distance. He stopped at a small apartment on the edge of town. I watched. 10 minutes, 20, then saw Alex open the door. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I walked closer, peeking through the half-open window. And there they were, Daniel and Alex, laughing, kissing, like lovers. My knees gave out. I pushed the door open and they both froze. Alex stepped back, but he spoke first. Yes, I'm with him. He's the one who opened the store for me. He gives me everything, unlike you. His voice was sharp, almost proud. I couldn't move, couldn't think. Then he added, with a smirk, and Mom knows too. Those words hit me like a bullet. Daniel said nothing, just stood there, guilty and silent. The air in that room turned cold, and the silence that followed was louder than any scream. That night, I cried until my body ached. Not just because of Daniel, but because of what Alex had said. Mom knows. The next morning, I drove to her house. She was sitting on the couch, calm, almost waiting for me. You knew, didn't you? I asked. She sighed and said softly, I knew about the store, not about the rest. But her eyes wouldn't meet mine. I stared at her, trembling. You're lying, Mom. You knew, and you said nothing. She stayed silent. That silence said everything. I grabbed my bag and walked out. Driving home, I felt hollow, like every piece of me had been stripped away. My husband betrayed me. My brother humiliated me. And my mother protected them both. That day, something inside me changed. I realized I couldn't keep playing the victim, because if they could live with their lies, then I would learn to live with my truth. The days that followed were unbearable. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. Daniel tried calling, left messages like, we need to talk. I ignored them all, but I knew a confrontation was inevitable. So one night, I agreed to see him. He showed up, tired, guilty, eyes red. I never wanted you to find out like that, he whispered. I laughed, bitter, broken. So you'd rather I stayed blind? He didn't answer. Then, quietly, he said the words that shattered me. I love him. Not I'm sorry. Not it was a mistake. No, I love him. I took off my wedding ring, placed it on the table, and said, then go love him somewhere else. He tried to speak, but I slammed the door before he could. That night, I cried until there was nothing left inside. And through my tears, one thought echoed again and again. My family betrayed me. In our small town, news spreads fast. Too fast. Within days, everyone knew. Whispers followed me everywhere, pity from some, mockery from others. And I walked with my head high, even though I was dying inside. Mom called one morning. "You should forgive," she said softly. "Family must stay together." Her words froze my blood. "Forgive," I replied. "Mom, lies don't build families. They destroy them." I hung up. Meanwhile, Alex was thriving. His store was doing well. Daniel was there almost every day. They were happy, openly, unashamed. But they didn't know. I'd started documenting everything. Every bank transfer, every message, every proof of the money Daniel had taken from me to build Alex's dream. If Daniel wanted to fund his lover's life with our money, then he'd have to pay the price. And Alex was about to learn that betrayal always comes with interest. I hired a lawyer, a calm man with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. I told him everything. He listened carefully, then smiled slightly. "You're stronger than you think," he said. Through him, I learned that Daniel had withdrawn nearly $25,000 from our joint account to open Alex's store. So I filed for divorce and demanded full restitution. When Daniel received the court summons, he stormed into my house. "You're trying to ruin my life?" he shouted. I looked straight at him. "You did that yourself." He froze, speechless, and walked out. That night, I got a message from Alex. "You won't get away with this. You don't know what I can do." I stared at it for a long time. Then, I smiled. Because the moment he threatened me, I realized something. They had stolen my trust, my peace, my love. But what they didn't know was that the silence of a betrayed woman is more powerful than her rage. Weeks later, the court date arrived. Daniel sat across from me, restless, eyes hollow. Alex was in the back, glaring. My lawyer presented everything: the bank statements, the photos, the messages. Each piece of evidence landed like a hammer strike. Daniel didn't look up once. Alex clenched his fists, trembling with anger. Finally, the judge spoke. "Mrs. Turner, you are granted full restitution and ownership of the marital home." I exhaled slowly. When the session ended, I walked out, tall, steady, free. Alex followed me outside. "You think you've won?" he spat. "He still loves me." I turned, met his eyes, and said quietly, "No, Alex. He used you, like he used me. One day you'll see it." He didn't answer. I walked away. For the first time in months, I felt air in my lungs again. I had lost a husband, a brother, and a mother, but I had found something far more valuable: myself. Months later, I heard the news. Alex's store had shut down. Daniel's business had collapsed, clients gone, reputation ruined. And Alex, dependent on him, was broke. They fought, constantly. Neighbors said their shouting echoed down the street. Then, one night, Daniel kicked him out. That same evening, I got a message. "I'm sorry. I lost everything." I didn't reply, because I knew he wasn't sorry for betraying me. He was sorry for losing. It took time to heal, but I did. I started taking classes, found a new job, traveled alone. And one evening, watching the sun set over an empty beach, I smiled. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't broken. I was free. Sometimes, life destroys you, just to rebuild you stronger. And in that quiet moment, I knew I'd survived. One morning, my phone rang. It was Mom. Her voice trembled. "Can we talk, please?" I hesitated, then agreed. When I arrived, she was sitting in the same living room as before, but the air felt heavier. She reached for my hand, tears in her eyes. "I knew," she whispered. "I knew everything. I was just afraid. I thought I was protecting you." I looked at her, silent. "Protecting me?" I finally said. "By letting me live a lie." She broke down, sobbing. "I'm sorry." Those two words hung in the air, fragile, late, almost meaningless. I didn't forgive her that day, but as I walked out, something inside me softened. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about letting go of the weight you carry. And as I got into my car, I decided that day to stop living in the ruins of their silence, to rebuild my own way. And this time, for me, the seasons passed, one by one. I learned to enjoy solitude, to cook for one, to laugh without reason, to wake up without dread. I met new people, made new memories, traveled to new places. Daniel wrote to me, long letters filled with regret. I read them all, but never answered. Because some wounds don't need closure. As for Alex, he left town. Rumors said he'd moved abroad. Others whispered darker things. I didn't care. He was gone. Mom grew older, quieter. We spoke occasionally, about ordinary things. One afternoon, she looked at me and said softly, "You've become so strong." I smiled, because she was right. I had, not despite the pain, but because of it. And that strength was my victory. Years later, I saw Daniel again, in a grocery store. He looked older, tired, empty. He smiled faintly. "You look happy," he said. "I am," I replied. He wanted to say more, but I turned and walked away. As I stepped outside, the wind brushed against my face. For the first time, I felt peace. This story, as painful as it was, had taught me something priceless. You can lose everything: love, family, trust. But if you keep your dignity, you never truly fall. That night, I opened my journal and wrote, "I survived the betrayal of those I loved most, and I chose myself." Then I closed it, lit a candle, and smiled. Because that wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of my rebirth.